So what I did was, the very first thing I want to talk about while I'm still in the summit was I began to increase my network. I began to interact with people on the issue I was having, persons I felt would have an answer, not just general Gbegboro discussion, but like, okay, this is a problem I'm having in the office and I'm trying to get answers. I want to be able to get past this issue. Let's assume procurement never delivers. What are the alternatives I have? And one of the persons I spoke to was Dr. Oluwatobi, and he mentioned that there are several apps, free apps. You can just go on Google Play Store, download them. But I wasn't a Google person then. I was all about Microsoft. So because I couldn't get those apps, I had to now delve deeper. Okay, does Microsoft have an alternative to scanning that is not like, you know, the general scanning apps and everything? And I found Office Lens. Now, what Office Lens did for me was it enabled me to stop paper filing while I was in financial services completely. Whenever I do DFS minutes on a document and it's going out, all I just have to do is scan it with my phone using Office Lens, rename it according to the subject, the date, and perhaps maybe the undersigned, just to be able to index it and bring it up later, and then file it on my system. So the only issue I began to have after a couple of, let me say, 3-4 weeks of doing that, because documents that come to the DFS's office are quite voluminous, was space. I began to run out of space on my device, and I began to ask questions. Okay, what are the alternatives that I have? And then I found out that on OneDrive, my personal OneDrive, which was actually a breach of operational policy, I'm not meant to be using my personal email to be storing official documents. I have a limited space, I think about 15 gigabytes or so, and I was already getting there. So to increase the space, I have to subscribe, and one thing, money. I wasn't interested. But I began to interact with someone in CSIS, and he said something that startled me. He said, do you have a Covenant University email? I said, yes. He said, do you realize that your Covenant University email has unlimited storage space? You don't need to subscribe. You don't need to pay anything. There's no volume of information that you will put on that drive, your Google Drive, for example, on your email, that would make you run out of space. So I began to think, okay, then that means this Windows phone I have is useless. I mean, I can't incorporate this to what I'm doing. And it appears if I should begin to use my official mail, not only will I be in line with the university's policy using official mail for official documents, but I have an unlimited space to work with. So I let go of that phone. I bought the phone I'm using right now, downloaded one of the apps Dr. Oluwatobi mentioned, and then everything became seamless. It was like I just entered into a different world, because I began to see so many applications on Google that some of them were maybe beta test applications. They were just testing them with the market to see, okay, do people want an app like this? Is it helping them? And some of them were core apps that had been existing for very long, but I had no idea. Now, none of that would have happened. I wouldn't have gotten to know all those things just trying to work isolatedly by myself. In fact, it would have been destructive, because I would just be there, you know, I can't imagine how long it would take me to search for all those answers by myself. But interacting with persons that had already gotten quite far, all they just needed to do was give me that push. Oh, there's this thing, give it a look, see, try around this and see what you get. And it was fabulous. So the first thing I want to mention about the conference was the key takeaway for me from the IAAP Summit was you cannot grow as an administrator on your own without learning to network with other people in your profession. It could be within Covenant University, and more preferably, it could be with persons in an external context. How do I mean? I met persons there that I just began a casual discussion with. Okay, I'm from Nigeria, blah, blah, blah. And then the person said, okay, so tell me something new that you know, that you learned, maybe not from this conference, but something that has been working for you. And I said, okay, I have this scanning app in the office. We usually have an issue procurement, blah, blah, blah. But then I can use these apps to scan documents, upload them to my official mail. I can retrieve them at will, on the go, anywhere. So I'm not really restrained to having to come to the physical presence of my office to access a copy of the document. If I'm in Ikeja and someone were to say, oh, we need a copy of this document, all I have to do is just log on to my mail wherever I am there, access my Google Drive, and print that document because it is lodged in the file. in the Google Drive. So it's not something that you make a photocopy with a physical copier that probably costs 1.2 million naira, and then you take the physical copy and put it in a file somewhere, and then when they say, oh, we need one document, you now have to come to that physical location. It gives your office an IP address. So far as you can log into your Google Mail, you have access to any copy of the documents that you require. So she said, okay, that's very cool. It's interesting that she already knew about that, but that she wants to share something with me. I was like, okay, go ahead. I gave her my card, and she saw that on my card I was a personal assistant to the Vice Chancellor of Covenant University. And she said, okay, do you have any app that helps you maybe manage your notes? Because you mentioned you're not on Microsoft Office, so definitely OneNote is not going to work for you on an official level. But do you have anything on Google that you use to take notes? And I was like, not really. I take my notes on OneNote, and then I just try to find how to juxtapose it with my Google email address. And she said, Google actually has an app called Keep. And then she began to go on and on about Keep and how Keep can help you to take notes, how Keep can actually help you with a presentation. You note everything you have. You can take snapshots of your slides, and then the things you want to talk about in your presentation, directly below those pictures, you can share that particular note. You can make as many notes as possible. You can share that particular note with perhaps some other person you want to work on that discussion with. And you can even put calendar notifications. Okay, remind me by 5 o'clock to go and collect milk from Yabasira. And then you just put a calendar there, notification, and all it does is it's kind of just like your normal clock timer, but it begins to notify you that, okay, 5 o'clock you have this to do, 7 o'clock you have that to do, and it can help you manage a to-do list effectively. Prior to discussing that with her, the only app I knew that could do that was OneNote. So the key takeaway for me, and one of the primary things I want to encourage everybody here to do consistently, is to network. You cannot begin to imagine the value that you can gain from someone else in a productive 5-minute interaction. I'm going to move up from there to the next slide, conceptualization. I have assistant versus associate, 2 pictures. Set of pictures. I have assistant on this side, I have associate on this side. Now, the associate seems to be a little bit more dignifying. You have a boss or someone that you work with, and they have an agenda or goals that you're working towards, and they trust you as an administrative professional so much that they are confident enough to discuss the content of the agenda with you. The primary reason they are doing that is because they believe that when they have that end game discussion with you, you will just know how to utilize the skills or the capacity that is within you to help them achieve that without them having to give you instructions every single day. You will become intuitive. That's the difference between an associate and an assistant. But an assistant is someone that you feel, even if I want to explain this thing to him, it would be like maybe trying to explain almighty formula to a gorilla. Like, this person will not get. Let me just be telling you the one that you'll be able to utilize for now. Go and print this document. Go and photocopy that one. Then type it like this. Use these words. If you change it, I will correct it back to what I chose, because I don't believe in your ability to be intuitive. I don't trust your capacity to deliver. So I'm doing everything by myself. Now, we actually have a choice as administrative professionals on which of these 2 divides we want to find ourselves. Primarily, any boss you walk up to will naturally want to assume or put you in the assistant perspective because he does not know what you have within you. But when you begin to articulate yourself with competence, when you begin to display that I actually know what I'm doing, this is my profession, and I'm here to help you achieve your goal in the shortest time possible, they begin to trust you as an associate. They can discuss goals with you. Oh, there's this wonderful idea I had the other day. I was trying to achieve this. How do you think we can go about it faster? Then you have an understanding of the system that they are working within, and then you can advise them as a professional. That's when you move or you graduate from the assistant level to the associate. Next slide. Okay. On assistant, I have of less or secondary importance. Like I said, they just give you the minute by minute tasks. Get this done, get that done. I don't give you the full picture because I don't trust your capacity to understand it. A person under the authority or control of another. Your time is not your own, because I don't believe even if I gave you your time and the work, you can put the two together and give me a result. So you have to sit here and babysit you to do the work. In the conference, I had this statement. A lot of the speakers kept repeating it. They were like, if you don't have an assistant, if you don't have an associate, then you are an assistant. So when you don't let your administrative assistant, your personal assistant, your executive assistant to do their work, you as the boss are subjecting yourself to become them, because you tie your time down to what you need them to do. You can't go anywhere and leave anything in their custody because you don't trust what they are going to deliver at the end of the day. And then finally, simply existing for clerical support, routine engagements, just the everyday thing. Photocopy this, stamp that, file it. Photocopy this, stamp that, file. Don't go beyond this sphere. When you write memos, use this grammar. Don't change it. Don't put date up. Don't do anything new. Just keep it the way it is, because I don't believe if you were to cross that boundary, you still have sense. You may begin to do another thing. So to cross from that divide, your boss needs to begin to see you as a partner or companion in business or art. The very first step to do that for persons who probably are not enjoying that experience would be to actually sit down with your boss and try to discuss it. I've been working with you, sir, for the past 3 months, and it's been a very pleasurable experience. But I am an administrative professional, and these are the set of skills that I possess. I want to be able to help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve within the shortest time possible. You start a conversation like that, and it changes the way they see you. Okay, maybe this person isn't just someone to run around and carry a file after all. There is more to what they can bring to the table than I actually felt was possible. A person who works jointly on an activity or project, vital due to what they bring to the table, productivity, and they are productively intuitive. Next slide, Pressy conceptualization, strategic partnership. A strategic partnership is an agreement between two distinct business entities to share expertise, resources, or competencies for mutual benefit. Just like I said, for you to move from that position of an assistant to becoming an associate, they need to believe in your ability to help them achieve their goals. They need to be able to see that capacity in you. When a CEO calls an accountant or a senior accountant or a principal accountant to discuss the financial position of the company, he is trusting the advice that the man will give to him because he believes this person is an accounting professional. When they want to install a new system or set of softwares and they call their IT professional, they don't tell the IT professional, plug it this place, carry the system there, no, face the bandwidth the other way, because they don't even know what that person is all about. So they have to trust what he's giving them. You call a doctor to your house, you don't tell him where to put the thermometer, no, it's here that is hot, or no, bring it down. You trust wherever he touches because you believe this person knows what he's doing. But until your boss begins to see you that way, that no, this lady actually is bringing something to the table, she's actually offering more than I thought she had within her, they may never actually trust you to the level of being an associate. Now on to systems thinking, the very next slide. A perspective of seeing and understanding systems as wholes rather than as a collection of parts, a web of interconnections that creates emerging patterns over time. I stole that from someone called Megan McFadden. Okay, now I'll move on to the next slide. Tools of a systems thinker. It's a transition thing. Just to explain this, you have disconnection and interconnectedness. You have parts and you have wholes. You have analysis and you have synthesis, linear and secular. If you can draw a pattern from the very first four diagrams I've explained, what you see is that someone who is a linear thinker only thinks to the next step. They are not thinking beyond the next step. They are not being intuitive. When you initiate a process with them, print so document for me, they just collect it with the goal of printing that document and giving it back to you. From that, anything that happens beyond this point, that's your own. But someone who is a systems thinker, when you give them an assignment, print so document for me, and they collect it, they think beyond just that assignment you've given them. What is his end goal? Why is he trying to print this document? Who is it document for? What does the person want to use the document for? Okay, type this memo for me. It's a memo to the chancellor and it's a memo for blah 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 purpose, and then they just leave it with you. if it is his very first time of working with you, he would have high expectations. Okay, I believe this person should know how to begin the greetings aspect of the memo to the chancellor. I believe this person will be able to choose a subject that would make meaning to this particular document we are sending up to the highest executive of the institution. But when the document comes to you and you just lift an existing memo to the chancellor, maybe you change 2 words in the subject, everything else is just literally like you are paraphrasing another document. He sees it as, no, this person is a linear thinker. There are some documents or some assignments I cannot hand to him. But when they see something novel, something genius come up out of you from that very first try, even if you've been having issues with them before, you need to ask for that opportunity once you begin to believe in yourself. They will not just look at you one day and be like, okay, let me try this person again and see if they've woken up. No, you need to be the one to call their attention to it. Oh, yes, you've been looking at me as someone who is a linear thinker, but right now I'm beginning to see things in a more wholesome way. When you give me an assignment, I'm not just thinking of giving you back exactly what you asked for. I'm giving it back to you while considering exactly what you will need it for in the long run. Next slide. Is there anybody in this position right now? Have I lost anybody? I want to know if I'm making sense. I can see some people looking at me very bored. Some people are sleeping. I have like 3 minutes left. I want to be sure that I'm actually carrying everybody along. There's no one in this category. Okay, next slide. Now, bringing it to Covenant University. Like I said, systems thinking, strategic partner, admin associate. To become an associate, you need to be able to see the big picture and partner with your executive to achieve their goals, and they need to trust you to do that. What is Covenant University's running agenda at the moment? 1 of 10 in 10. Management's vision to fulfill Vision 10 2022 is by evolving a world-class research university. Now, we are all administrative professionals in this room. Some of us are accountants, some of us are IT specialists, legal, information officers, the works. What is my role? What do I need to do now with my boss, with the person that I am assigned to, in the department that I am assigned to evolve what Covenant University is now to become a world-class institution? I went for an international conference for the first time in my life. I'm the first person in my family to go to America, and I'm proud to say it. But to be sincere, I saw a conference organized on a par that literally blew my mind. You can't just walk anyhow there. The organizers are dressed bold red outfits. When you see them, you know this person is an organizer. That's why they are going this way. It's not during the meeting you see somebody running with mic trying to give the other exchanging. Somebody will bring water to the no. It was organized. There was no funny movement. There was nothing out of place. Fortunately for me, on my return, there was another conference in the Cook Reed building. It was an amazing conference, don't get me wrong. But it just brought me back home. I mean, I was like, oh, wow. It was different. So, but for us to evolve to that level, for people to come here and literally just stand still because they don't know where to fit in. They're like, this is too perfect to make any sense. That's where we are trying to get to. And sometimes it doesn't always involve making the most expensive decisions. So we need to buy one very magnificent AC. We need the smart screen to cover the whole. No. Most of the items they were even using there were makeshift. I was the person that carried Nigeria's flag in the flag, they call it procession of nations that are represented on the IAAP. And I had to proceed through the back entrance of their stage to come out to the front. When you stand from the audience and look at that stage, you are impressed. Everything looks like it was made in heaven. But the moment I went through the back and carried the flag, I was a bit shook. Because it was like a bomb went off there. Everything was everywhere. Wires, people, things, flag, just everything all around the place. And I was like, wait, how did this same hotel, but the moment you walk around, everything is pristine. This is what everybody is seeing. This has to be right. Nobody can see anything looking wrong from this aspect. But if you are privileged to go to the back, okay, yes, maybe you see one or two things that are off. The hotel, the JW Marriott, is a 5-star hotel. It's as good as it gets. The moment you walk in, you can tell. But when I went through the back exit, they were having one party thing, people were dancing, and I didn't really know how to dance like that, so I didn't just want to embarrass Covenant University. And I went through the back, and I saw the back stairwell. I was like, is this the same building? The messiest place in the Senate building is finer than their back entrance. Everything was there. Were cigarettes on the floor, water dripping. But once you cross that divide of the back entrance and you close that velvet door, everything looks like you're in a dream. Why? Because that's the aspect they have to get right. So evolving to a world-class university, we have to begin to know what are the aspects that we are interfacing with external party on as a university, in our facilities, as individuals, in our processes. And how can we make the most of that? Hashtag will lead up. Hashtag will lead up. Just go back one slide. Yes. Hashtag will lead up. As administrative officers, by virtue of the fact that the registrar, sir, if I have your permission, I just wanted to make a recommendation that if it were possible, instead of the routine FFF programs that we have, if we could have something every week, maybe just 30 minutes for administrative officers, non-teaching, senior non-teaching staff to interact with each other. You pick someone in this room, one person, this week. You can't repeat persons, and you share one skill that you have learned that is helping you on your job with that person in 15 minutes, and they get to do the same thing with you. Whatever that person shares with you for that weekend and the rest of the new week, you get to play with that person's idea. For example, if I met you now when I talked about Google Keep, your job for the next 1 week is to go home and play with Google Keep. What is Google Keep about? Read about it, try it on your mail, play around with it on your personal mail and in your official mail. Try to understand how it functions to the best of your ability. And I believe that will help us become more productive, because by the end of the session, we'll probably have 44 new skills that everybody must have learned in each week of interacting with somebody new. Skip the next slide. Go to the embodied leader. Beautiful. So another major thing we need to keep in mind as administrative professionals is our body language. We can say so much with our mouths. We can have maybe an expression, but if our body language is wrong, we may be communicating another thing. I have here a meme that says, "No, really, keep talking. I'm just training for the eye-rolling Olympics." That is a very saucy or unruly way to communicate with persons. A lot of people, maybe parents, external persons, contractors that try to come to react or interact with us, the burden of work is actually quite much, and you may have been strained for one reason or the other. But I just want to encourage every one of us that to actually move from the assistant to the associate level, our body language matters a lot when we are communicating with people. According to Maya Angelou, people will never forget how you make them feel. You may not feel the way you're trying to make them feel. You may actually be very pained on the inside. Your boss just yelled at you, sent you out of the office, and on your way out, you meet someone that just came to you and started asking you for something without considering how you might be feeling at that point in time. But how you treat that person at that point in time, they will never forget how you made them feel. And it really goes a long way. And then influencing the bottom line, like I said, is the little things we do that matter a lot. Our daily routines, our interactions with third party, our interactions with students, our interactions with parents, our interactions with ourselves. I'm so sorry to bring this up, but this morning I was standing outside on assignment as instructed by the Vice Chancellor, and someone didn't know that the Vice Chancellor was directly behind the glass, and he came up to me and he was like, you, I will beat you. You are just there, I will just beat you. And I was trying to tell him, no, not now. And he just kept doing it. And I was like, okay, imagine a parent was passing and sees, oh, this is a staff on ID card. This is also another staff on ID card. I will beat you. What's happening here? If they had an option, if they had another company investing in Nigeria, they may be like, maybe this may not be the best place. So sometimes when we want to have all those playful bands, we should try as much as possible to consider our environment around us. It's those very little things that matter. You want to make a crass comment to someone that you're comfortable interacting with that level on. Consider the environment you are in before you do such a thing. You may be on a playful level with that person, but in that environment, it is not right. You want to laugh out loud in the middle of a program. You want to jeer at someone. You even want to call them a name that the both of you are comfortable with. The environment also matters. It's not just that that person is comfortable with you calling him a potato or whatever. If the environment is wrong, it would communicate something else to them. So let's just try and keep that in mind as well. And then I would like to thank you all for listening. I want to apologize again for starting off very late. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you once again to this meeting.